Hey, book lovers, welcome to Seriously Sandra, where we get real about books and the brilliant minds who create them. Today, I am beyond excited to chat with Zenda Walker. We're going to dive into the stories behind her children's books and all her little writing magic. And so grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's chat books. Welcome, Zenda.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Sandra.
You are quite welcome. I'm so happy you said yes.
Of course. We go way back. Come on. It was going to be a yes no matter what.
Oh my gosh. I know we met. How did we meet?
I believe that didn't we meet on um
Clubhouse? Was it Clubhouse?
Clubhouse? That's what I was trying to think.
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse.
Yes.
And you really stood out to me as someone who was really genuinely um immersed in the world that we were in, which is this world of authors. But you were so genuinely offering feedback and taking feedback and sharing your knowledge. And I just knew like I have to know this woman. Like she has to be my friend. She's my friend in my head already, but I'm so glad that we've built a relationship since that
Same
first.
here. And I remember you Zara's Wash Day and you were on Clubhouse saying, I've written this book and I want to talk about Zara's Wash Day and hair and the way that you would talk about it on Clubhouse about the heritage and Zara's Wash Day and why hair is important. You drew me in. And for those who don't know, who are listening, if you don't know Clubhouse, it's a social app, and a lot of writers hang out there, and writers and readers. So it was really great to meet. So for the rest of everybody, tell everybody about the journey to get to Zara's Wash Day, what it's about. I'm gonna shut up and I want to hear from you.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, I spoke very passionately about the project Zara's Wash Day because it's really a personal project that since the grade three, I've always wanted to be an author. But life happens and you never really think that this is something that you can truly do. But Zara's Wash Day evolved from many moments in my childhood as well as my experience in becoming a mom. So, for everyone who doesn't know, Hair Wash Day, especially in the Black community, is just a really special time where it could be a number of minutes, it could be hours, it could be many hours, it can even
Uh-huh.
be sometimes like several days of, washing, conditioning, curly coily, Afro coily textured hair, and conditioning and styling it and getting it ready for the next day or for the week. And so when we're styling these really intricate braiding styles or twisting styles or locking styles, that can take some time. So what's special about this time is that whether it's a loved one or a hairstylist, you are ex having an experience. In my childhood, it was an experience in just really bonding with my mom and having this nostalgia of watching my favorite TV show or reading my favorite book or just the warmth of my mom's being in between my mother's knees
Mm.
and her caring for my hair, and then the feeling after I got my hair done. So during my childhood, this was a very memorable time during my developmental stage. But then even though I came from an affirming home and this was a time where we really just expressed all of our cultural hairstyles, I still I still experience bullying and not really
Mm.
feeling beautiful because of the general messages from the outside world, which was I never really saw people that looked like me or had my hairstyles on the cover of magazines, you know. And so I realized that this was a generational experience because my daughter experienced the same thing. Even though I affirmed her at home, she also was experiencing bullying and not feeling
Wow.
great about her hair. So during our hair wash days, I took it to another level. I decided that rather than just affirming her and telling her how beautiful she is, I added something interesting to our wash days. We started talking more about the history and the why behind our hairstyles. And the end result was that I noticed that my daughter became more confident. And because of her confidence, she was dealing with conflict differently in school. And the best part,
Wow.
her grades were better.
Yes.
So I wanted to share that with other families that I knew were probably experiencing the same thing.
Wow, that is so, so important. And it's so funny because you immediately made me flash back to as a child and when you're getting your hair done and whether it was wash day or every, my mom used to braid my hair every night. And as she would talk, talk through the day, what went on in school, because it was one thing when it was at the dinner table with the family, but if there was something I really wanted to tell her, it was in that quiet moment as she's getting my hair ready in the evening. And I just
Exactly.
have to share, I got to tell you, made me a little verklempt with that because it is such a special bonding moment. And for you to talk about doing that with your daughter, who her name's Zara, isn't
Her name is Zara.
it?
Yes.
you know, that I just think that is really special. And I can even tell you, just to share anecdotally for the audience as well, that even as an adult, before my mom died, I remember I'd washed my hair and she sat down and she was drying and we were talking about like end of life and health issues and things, and it was just as if I was a child because I it was hard for me to do with her at face to face, but there was something that had changed in doing that. So I gotta you just touched my heart a little bit there. So thank you for that. So as you started saying, okay, this is the experience I'm having with daughter Zara, what made you want to turn it into a book?
A great question. So I realized that having deeper conversations, just I could actually immediately start to see the change in Zara, her curiosity, her critical thinking skills, even, right? And asking deeper questions after we learned about some of these amazing historical events and things that are really connected to our ancestry. And so I also remembered my own experience as a child and how my confidence started to grow once I became really comfortable with my hair texture and my aesthetic. But I also am a hairstylist by trade. And so there
Ah,
and so my time behind the chair and being a stylist and therapist, if you will, right? For my clients, I realized that these were shared stories among so many people of the diaspora.
hmm.
I remembered very polarizing stories, right? Where there was always this nostalgia about hair wash day, but there was also this memory of, you know, I don't want to use the word necessarily trauma, but just experiences in detangling. Like we know that the experience in caring for curly, coily, Afro coily hair isn't always the most pleasant. And maybe
Hmm.
because, when I was growing up, we didn't have this plethora of products that help us
Right?
go through the process that were actually designed for our hair. And so we were all trying to figure it out, especially during our natural hair journey, right?
Exactly.
And so those stories, I could constantly hear them as I'm in this beauty space. And so I thought, wow, I don't really see a lot of books on the market that really talk about this.
Hmm.
And so how can I help other families go through this hair wash day journey and also help them to have bigger conversations and deeper conversations about why we do what we do. Why do we pass on this rite of passage, right? This wash
Mm.
experience. Why do we pass down these styles that are so closely connected to our deeper history? So I thought I could help other families by starting with the children's book because it's a great place to start to build our children's confidence.
Absolutely. And if you haven't read it, it's so beautiful because you also bring in a lot of the historical facts of hair and our and you talk about, and it's your move, you've made a movement out of this and you call it the heritage. Can you talk a little bit about the history in the book and that?
Absolutely. So when I was writing the book, I thought I really wanted to create a fun, rhythmic story for the children that was fun to read with their parents or guardians and care and loved ones. But I also wanted to empower adults with the history because what I also realized is that a lot of us don't really know the history and or may not have been taught this history in our formal education. And so I thought, here's how I can empower the adults to go deeper with the children, but here's how I can tell a fun story incorporating facts and history that will be fun to read as well for the children. And so I incorporated a what I call a heritage glossary, which references terms from the book that go deeper into the history. Now, I have to admit that
Hmm.
I made up that word heritage a little bit.
But
Uh,
you know what? You know what? Yeah. No, no, no. It's the thing because if I see heritage out in the world, I immediately brand associate it with Zenda Walker. And I'm
oh,
like Zara's wash day originally. We'll talk about Zion's crown in a minute, but no, I hear heritage and I know exactly. Even when I hear people talk about wash day, I immediately think of you,
oh,
right?
I love
And
that.
because of like you've really when you were talking about that book on Clubhouse and just getting it launched and starting it, and then I remember reading the book and loving it, and then the historical pieces to it, because one of the things that we don't talk about, I think we're talking about more now, and the acceptance, as you said, curly coily, 4C hair and the different textures of hair. It used to be, especially among those who are Black, we was good hair, bad hair.
Right.
And you just did such a beautiful job for a children's book on giving us the history of our hair and
Thank
really
you.
delving into that.
Thank you so much. And so, yeah, I mean, I when I think about our heritage and our lineage and the things that some of us don't even know we're celebrating our ancestry through our hair,
Hmm.
I thought, okay, heritage, the classic word, the traditional word heritage means the the customs, traditions, practices, and beliefs that are passed down from a predecessor or an ancestor. And so
Hmm.
when I thought of heritage as an Haitage or Hairitage, I thought, wow, these are the hair customs, traditions, practices, and beliefs that are passed down from a predecessor and an ancestor. And it made me think everything, all those moments on hair wash day on that Saturday before church, right? When my mom would prep our hair in the kitchen salon. My mom is actually passing down a lot of her traditions, customs, and her beliefs as well, right? Because when we're sitting over a head of hair, especially as a hairstylist, we're realizing it's a transfer of energy, right? It's a transfer of a level of love, a level of knowledge, a level of comfortability, right? And we're transferring that on to the person who we're working with. And so when it comes from a parent, right, or a loved one or a family member,
Hmm.
I think that that transfer of energy is more than just the physical act of passing down the actual styling. It's
Yes.
passing down how you talk to your child during that moment. And so that's also something that triggered me to write the book because I realized that there were times even as a mom, like I wasn't speaking life into my child during hair wash day. I
Mm.
wasn't always getting it right. It wasn't always this beautiful,
You mean you weren't the perfect mother saying, now, darling.
No, no, never that. It was actually, I had to catch myself sometimes. And I realized like, wait a second, what am I telling my daughter about everything related to her hair, right? If I'm not speaking life into her, then what am I telling her about her hair? So here was an opportunity for me to
Mm.
also change the narrative
Hmm.
for my daughter, enhance the experience, but then also help other families understand and realize that this time can be a really sensitive time for a child. And what we do is going to help shape how they feel about themselves and how they feel about their hair. So we have to catch ourselves sometimes in those moments when it's difficult to detangle and say, your hair is not difficult. Your hair is not hard. Your curls are dancing with each other. And then,
Ooh, I love
or
that.
your hair just needs extra tender, loving care, right? Rather than, you know, perpetuate, you know, these words or feelings about our aesthetic that aren't helpful.
Your curls are dancing with each other. That is a beautiful phrase.
Thank
That,
you.
because when we say that, many it's like, oh, your hair is difficult, or you're too hard-headed, or oh my God, you're too tender-headed, just, when you're little pulling it back, it's like it's too tight, and all of that. And as you said, not all experiences every day are going to be the most loving about it, but it is getting to that acceptance with our hair. And it's not
Absolutely.
even what I found, what I had loved for Zara's wash day, and I know we want to talk about Zion's crown, but it's not just for the child. I love children's books, and I think the biggest readers of children's books need to be adults, because it's the lessons that as an
Absolutely.
adult we can learn, right?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up because ultimately during this entire process, what I realized is that I learned more from my daughter every day than I actually teach her, right?
Mm,
And so oftentimes, especially when raising children, we're really incorporating a lot of the things that we learn, but sometimes we're also often trying to change that narrative and do it even better for our children, right? Then
right.
this is like a second chance at, raising our inner child.
Yes.
So to a certain degree, especially, as an author, sometimes when we write these works of art for, in the form of a book, oftentimes we're healing our inner child, especially as Black women or women of the diaspora. I realized that I really wrote the book that I really desired as a child,
Mm,
you
yes.
know? And then
Yes.
seeing
Yes.
that my daughter also needed this message a generation later
Yes.
really has come full circle.
Oh,
So yeah.
oh my gosh, I love it so much. I love that so much. So I want to make sure, talk about Zion. It's interesting because in within children's books, it's often said that girls will read a book with a boy on the cover, but boys will not read a book with a girl on the cover. And I
Mm.
thought it was really smart for you not just to do Zara's wash day, but also to do Zion's crown and King, your young prince. And can you tell us, let's talk about Zion's crown.
Thank you. So yes, Zion's Crown seemed to be the next natural progression in this series. One reason is because I realized that a lot of my readers were asking me, so what about the boys?
Mm,
I thought to myself, you're absolutely right. Our boys are also wearing their hair in afros, twists, braids. I've seen boys wearing beads and different ornaments. They're wrapping their hair. And so I thought, wow, oftentimes when we talk about beauty and aesthetic, we often do leave men out of the conversation and men and
hmm.
boys. And so I thought, it would be really important to also acknowledge our boys and men that they're going through a journey too. And especially in this new era of the wave of new products that are available, boys are also discovering their curls and
Yes.
coils, right? And their locks and how
Yes.
their locks are forming. And so I thought we have to include our boys and men in the conversation and keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, as now, what has been your response since Zion's crown came out?
So it's been great. I have so many boy moms, boy aunties, and uncles that are really grateful for the message. What's been really touching is that when I go to different classrooms and read for story time, I get all the little boys who are named Zion coming up to me and sharing that their name is Zion. And, it's been something that's really been undescribable. Like when you set out to do something with the intention of really uplifting our community and
Mm-hmm.
helping to build the confidence of children. And when you're seeing it happen in real time, it's a game changer. It's a life changer, and it really helps me understand that this is bigger than me and my idea that I had. It's it's really doing what it set out to do, which is again to have our children see themselves and their experiences reflected in a book.
Yeah. And I said this in the beginning, and you talked a little bit about it being heritage that is as a movement. And I remember, like, from our earliest meeting, that's what you kept talking about. Where do you see this movement going?
Oh,
What's next with that?
I see this so, we're living in a very interesting time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where um a lot of some of the hard things that have happened in our history is being repeated. And what I see, the work that I do, especially when I'm going into classrooms and libraries and different museums, and I'm touching each family with an uplifting message, and I'm helping them to celebrate their history. I realize that this is my contribution to the movement of us being seen as humans, being seen
Mm.
as people who matter in the world, and as
Mm-hmm.
people who productively, but um, you know, who have contributed to this world in such a big way, right? And I think that the developmental stages is really an important time because this is where you set the tone for how that
Yes.
person enters the world, how they see themselves in the world, how they approach the world. And so
Yes.
when I look at these children's faces, I see that these are our future Supreme Court justices. They're our future legislators. They're
Yes.
our future teachers,
Yes.
doctors, engineers. And so I feel like this is activism in a way
Mm.
that is
Preach.
really can be profound and effective, right? I'm building the
Absolutely.
confidence from the ground up. So when they enter the world and they know that they can do anything while rocking that set of locks, right? They can do anything with those beads in their hair. They can see themselves beyond just the aesthetic, right? And if
Absolutely.
it's aesthetically pleasing for everyone else in the world, right? If it's aesthetically pleasing to them and they feel good about themselves, they're going to enter everything they do with a level of fierceness that
I
I think is
love it.
oftentimes unique.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. All right. What's next for you?
Oh, what's next? So the third book has been written. I am shopping it
Okay. Do we
as
have a
we
title, or can you
speak.
tell us? You're only
So,
telling just us. Nobody will else.
right. I can't tell you the title yet, but what I will say is that the character is an Afro-Latina.
Ooh.
Yes. And so what I've been sharing with people is that the Know Your Heritage series, it started with the African American experience. Me as an African
Hmm.
American woman, this is, this is where I can really be loud and proud, right?
Yep.
But it's going to be a global series because what I realized in doing the research and writing these books is that heritage is global and it's a universal
Yes.
concept. Everybody has a story about their hair and their hair experiences, even when they don't have hair. And so it's very inclusive. So I'm going to continue to connect the dots between many different communities, including the Native American community, the Asian community, the Latino, Latina, Hispanic community, as well. I think I mentioned the Asian community as
Yep.
well, and many other communities through our hair stories. And so that is kind of where I'm going with this. So I thought the next character is just it's a powerful story, and it really connects the dots of our ancestry, African ancestry. Um,
Oh,
and it does talk a little bit about the Pelo Malo
Pelo
experience,
malo.
right?
Sí. Okay. So I cannot wait. And for those of as an Afro Latina, it is definitely within the community. So I'm looking forward to that. So as we're wrapping up, I always have my favorite questions that I love to ask. What's your favorite children's book?
Oh. Oh, wow. That's a great story. I love your books, actually.
Oh, come.
And so me and my daughter,
All right.
yeah, I really, really, really do. I do. No, really, like your unicorn book actually really um was something that me and my daughter always read when it came out. Like we were always reading it. But I love a lot of the classics as well, right? Like I actually love the book Sulwe written by Lupita Nyong'o, of course, and um, Hair Love, which was a really
Mm-hmm.
popular one, as by Matthew Cherry as well.
Okay.
And my daughter and I were kind of into a lot of the series now, like fantasy series, and
All right.
we love
Awesome.
fairies and then unicorns.
And the unicorn. Okay. Well, thank you. That touches my heart. So thank you. And that's from a friend. So I do appreciate that. And if you could donate, if you were asked that you could donate 3 books to a new and upcoming library, what 3 books would you want donated? And not your own, because another author said, "Oh, is it my own?" No, there were 3 books you'd want donated to that library.
Oh man. So I actually, do they have to be children's books so they can be
No, adult. It can be
adult?
whatever's your flavor.
I am a fan of Dr. Uche Blackstock, who actually I do have her book here too, and I think I made actually it's called Legacy,
Okay.
and it's a Black physician reckons with racism in medicine.
All right.
I have another book that actually was written by a friend of mine who's actually a death doula.
Ooh, wow.
Yes. And I'm going to actually show you her book too now as well,
Okay.
called Briefly, Perfectly Human. And it's really making an authentic life by getting real about the end of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And that's written by a Lua author.
okay.
And then what would be my third book? Huh. I will, there's so many. I have so many.
All right. Oh,
Um, I actually, for a professional, I actually was really pleased with this book, Waymakers by
okay.
Tara J. Frank as well. These are the three that I would probably
Thank you. Thank
donate.
you.
Great question.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Zenda, wow, what an incredible conversation. Huge thanks to Zenda Walker for sharing your story, your insights, the whole thing about heritage. Heritage. I've got to make us say it right. If you haven't read Zenda yet and you haven't bought these children's books, not just for yourself, for your kids, but for yourself, buy them. What are you waiting for? Okay. And where
Mhm.
can people find you?
Thank you, Sandra, so much for your time. People can find me on my website at www.knowyourheritage, that's HAIRITAGE.com. You can find me on Instagram at author Zenda Walker or know_your_heritage, on Twitter at knowyourheritage, and on LinkedIn as Zenda Walker as well as Know Your Heritage. I'm also a DOE vendor with the City of New York. And so I'm happy to come to your school or organization to do a workshop on heritage.
Awesome sauce. Thank you. So check the links below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below with your favorite takeaways chat. And until next time, keep reading, keep dreaming, and keep sharing your own story.